The countdown to the Chinese Grand Prix continues, and as of today, being a Saturday, the 14th of March in 2026, it means we only have 24 hours to the actual race, which will be held on Sunday, the 15th day of March in 2026 at Shanghai International Circuit. But before we get to the race, it's important to realize that this is actually a sprint race weekend in China, meaning that on Saturday we are going to have a sprint race and then we are going to have qualifying for the race on Sunday. So this is actually a very busy weekend, and a weekend where teams actually have had very limited time to actually do practice. Because on Friday, they only had 60 minutes of free practice one, which actually is the only time they had to prep and be ready for the subsequent races and subsequent qualifying session in this particular weekend. And when you look at the result from the sprint race qualifying session, you can start to get an idea of how this weekend might actually look like. We already confirmed that Mercedes are still the team to beat because they secured a 1-2 in qualifying for the sprint. And the most interesting part of the qualifying session, especially when you look at the top 4 teams, is that McLaren seem to actually be getting better at understanding their car, with Norris actually securing P3 in the sprint race qualifying session. That means that they might actually start to get performance and might start moving forward. And when it comes to Ferrari, they are also right there in the front, with Hamilton starting in P4 and Charles Leclerc in P6. What might be very intriguing, or what people are expecting to see, is how Ferrari will have, or how it will go about the race start during the sprint race. And this is because when you look at the race start in Australia, you can actually see that Ferrari got off the line a little bit better than the rest of the teams. And that is something that probably many are hoping will also be in play during this particular weekend. Which means with Hamilton starting in P4 and Leclerc in P6, many are thinking that, or are already predicting that by the end of turn 1 or maybe by the end of lap 1, we might see Ferrari in front of the grid, which would be very interesting because this being a 19 lap on kind of a race, or a sprint that is extremely short, 100 km only, it's possible for Ferrari to actually score a 1-2 if they can be able to get ahead of McLaren and the 2 Mercedes that are ahead of them. If this is the first time that you and I are meeting, I am Joe, and on this YouTube channel, I talk about Formula 1 and the business of Formula 1. And I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. Of 4 teams that are actually being considered to be among the top 4, that is Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull seems to be the one that is struggling the most out of those 4 teams. And I think this became a little bit more evident with how the 2 drivers of Red Bull qualified, with Max being the best and actually qualifying P8. It is a position that actually disappointed him because he spoke about it, and I think it's now being evident that without any major improvement, Red Bull are going to struggle, both during the sprint race and probably also during the race on Sunday. But I think the more worrying thing for most of Red Bull fans and probably Max Verstappen fans is that now Red Bull seems to be what you might consider to be the leading team of the midfield. They may not have the pace of the front runner, and again, they are also probably a step ahead of the other midfield teams. So they might be stuck in this area where they are not in the front and they are not at back, but they are just there, which probably is not a position that Max Verstappen has been used to, considering that over the last couple of seasons, he has at least been driving in the front of the grid. Now, if you are an entrepreneur or a business person, you might not think there is much that you can learn from, watching Formula 1, or watching the sprint race, or watching the full race. But the truth is that there are a lot of lessons that you can pick from Formula One. And this is because besides being a sport, Formula One is actually a multi-billion business, meaning there are decisions that are being made on a day-to-day basis that are actually business focused. Teams and also drivers make decisions that not only help them when on track, but also help their balance sheets when they are not actually on track. And I think there is something that each one of us who is actually involved in business can pick from Formula One. And that's part of the conversation that I think you and I should be having even as we enjoy watching the sport and as we enjoy teams fighting for the championships on track in this particular season and even in subsequent seasons, because Formula One is a long-term game. It is a sport that has been there for quite a while, meaning the business of Formula One or the people involved in the business within the Formula One ecosystem have also been in this game for quite a while. Some teams have been there since the time the Formula One sport was started, and others have come in, others have gone out. People have come in, investors have come in and left. And I think this is a cycle that will continue into the foreseeable future. So if you are a business person who is also keen on building your business or your brand with such kind of a long-term view, I'm sure you can be able to get or draw inspiration from how Formula One has been over the last 50 or so years. This is going to be it on this particular video, and I do hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not, and I'm going to see you in my next video.